There it is. What is up? What is up, people? Welcome to Last Call Reacts. This is where I jump on here about once a week and discuss something going on in the news or the interwebs, something like that. I just wanted to get into a little bit of something while people are concentrating on what's happening at the Diddy files case, or who Trump pardoned, and missing a lot of things that's really going on between the lines in news here. I'm going to play a couple of things, and I'm going to read a couple of things also. If you got this, and you also got it from the thumbnail. So listen up. Let's get into a couple things, and you can let me know what you think. As always, as usual, like, share. Do me a big favor, subscribe, get me up there. Come check me out on my live Fridays at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be there with some friends also, and would love to see you. Now, without any further ado, let me get started with this.
The woman is suing Harvard, accusing the school of using images of two enslaved people whom she claims are family members. As WBZ's Ana Rodriguez explains tonight, she says Harvard is profiting off her ancestors' painful past.
It's a case 169 years in the making.
I'm the linear descendant of Renty.
This is Renty, and his picture is now at the center of a lawsuit against Harvard. Today, in front of Manhattan's Harvard Club, Renty...
Now, you know I got to cut you off for a couple of things here. Number one, I know you're just hearing a little bit about this and seeing it pop up in different news platforms, but this clip that I'm showing you right now is actually 6 years old. This is part of a 15-year-old case that somebody in this lineage, we actually know this picture that they've called many things, Whip Peter, but he actually has, a name, and we do have some of his lineage here fighting for ownerships of the pictures. Now, there's so many things that is embarrassing, that is wrong for this, especially for people to fight for their own families' images of what rightfully belongs to them. There'll also be another statement from somebody saying that these people didn't even have the right to consent to having these images taken of them. And third, I know I'm getting into a few things right now. And third, what's going on over here? Right? And third, where else do they do this at? Other than with slaves in ownership. It's like being twice as owned. Anyway, I'm going to let this continue.
Harvard. Today, in front of Manhattan's Harvard Club, Renty's great-great-great-granddaughter, Tamara Lanier, flanked by attorneys, announced she's suing the university.
Harvard University is saying to Tammy Lanier and her family that Renty still is a slave. He still does not own his image.
In a complaint filed in Middlesex.
Now, like it or not, yes, that's Ben Crump. A lot of people have their criticisms. I'm not sure why. They say a lot of these people approach when there are high-profile cases. But other than this, who would be the person to actually step in this position and have the drive and be able to galvanize such a case in the first place? So I just don't like to run into the same mantra as, oh, it's Ben Crump again, because who else would you want there? We claim there are no civil rights leaders or lawyers to present. Well, this has been a consistent face to be doing the thing. I don't believe he's in it just for the bag. He's actually doing some good work out there. And yeah, but high-profile people do high-profile cases. Now, anyway, I do like the way that he says that they still have ownership of this person. They haven't, even in death, experienced their freedom as yet.
County. Lanier's attorneys say the image of Renty and his daughter were taken in 1850, while Renty was enslaved in South Carolina and used in a racist study by Harvard biologist Louis Agassiz. They claim Harvard makes money from the pictures that belong to the Lanier family.
It will test the moral climate of this country.
Meanwhile, on Beacon Hill.
These are the cartoonish images that were used in the 1800s to depict Black people.
At the Museum of African American History, a Frederick Douglass exhibit of pictures taken in the 19th century tells a different story. Executive Director Marita Rivero.
Frederick Douglass, then in his early 20s, shortly after this camera was invented, realized, whoa, I could have a real image. This is an image of a Black person.
Rivero says a rise in genealogy is allowing Black families to trace their lineage.
All right, absolutely. I don't want to go too far there, but what I do want to do is get into a couple of things here also. So again, that news piece was 6 years ago when they were launching. They've been in litigation for 15 years, but when they had, solid traction on the case and began to start making waves, they reported on that. And here we are 6 years later with a different type of news. So here we go with this. In CNN, Harvard agrees to relinquish early photos of enslaved people, ending a long legal battle. But wait, there should be an asterisk there. But wait. Harvard University will relinquish 175-year-old photographs believed to be the earliest taken of enslaved people to a South Carolina museum devoted to African American history as a part of a settlement with a woman who says she is one of the subject's descendants. The photos of the subjects identified by Tamara Lanier as her great-great-great-great-grandfather Renty, who she calls Papa Renty, and his daughter Delia, will be transferred from the Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology to the International African American Museum in South Carolina, the state where they were enslaved in 1850, when the photos were taken, a lawyer for Lanier said. The settlement marks the end of a 15-year battle between Lanier and the esteemed university to release the 19th century daguerreotypes, precursor to modern day photographs. You guys correct me if I said that wrong, which I probably did. Lanier's attorney, Joshua Koskoff, told the Associated Press that the resolution is an unprecedented victory for the descendants of those enslaved in the U.S. and praised the client's years-long determination in pursuing justice for the people she had identified as her ancestors. I think it's one in American history, because of the combination of unlikely features, to have a case that dates back 175 years. That is correct. We're talking about 18th. That is phenomenal. Just the having those photographs of that case that long. It makes you wonder what else is in there. There's got to be a lot of other photos that were taken, maybe not processed, lost as well. And then to win control over the images dating back that long of enslaved people. That's never happened before. Key question in the case is whether Harvard could legally be allowed to continue owning dehumanizing images of enslaved people who could not consent to taking part. The Massachusetts court system ultimately sided with Harvard on the question of ownership, but allowed Lanier to continue to pursue emotional damages from the institution. And this is supposed to be a left-leaning institution also. I wonder if they argue like that from only the 1940s of Holocaust victims and their families and their keepings as well. I'd be interested to find out what they say with that. Harvard said Wednesday that it had long been working to relinquish ownership of the images, to put them in the appropriate context and increase access for all Americans. So even though they're saying that, they're not, if there is a rightful owner, they're saying it's definitely not the family. So they are giving it to that museum, aforementioned. Negotiations between Harvard and Lanier lawyers resulted in a settlement that included the removal of the images from Harvard's ownership. All right. On Wednesday, Lanier stood holding a portrait of Papa Renty while arm in arm with Susanna Moore, the great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Harvard biologist Louis Agassiz. I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing a whole bunch of these names here. This is also on CNN that I'm reading it from too, and I'm not going to bore you by reading the whole thing. I just want to get some of the main parts. Who commissioned the images on behalf of the university and whose theories on racial differences were once used to support slavery in the U.S. Both great-great-great-great-granddaughters, one of enslaved people and another of a man who exploited them, praised the resolution. Of course they did. Um, Question of ownership. In 2019, Lanier sued Harvard, alleging the images were taken without Renty and D'Elia's consent and therefore unlawfully retained. The suit attacked Harvard for its exploitation of Renty's image at a 2017 conference and in other uses. I'm just laughing because so many years and numbers, I keep messing them up, and because my head keeps going back to try to visualize the time and all that good stuff. It said Harvard has capitalized on the photos by demanding a hefty licensing fee to reproduce the imaging. So yes, definitely profiting, as Ben Crump had said before, and which again, the definitely the family should be compensated for that, right? Goes on to say here, okay. So we know where it's going. A new home for Renty and D'Elia. Tony A. Matthews, the CEO of the International African American Museum, called Harvard's relinquishing of the images a moment 175 years in the making. And we could assume that's where that's going as well. So beyond that, I know I made a special quip there at the beginning about while people are distracted about what Diddy did and who Donald Trump is pardoning lately, I want to go to our good friend that we know, Dr. Rashad, right? Who I have up here somewhere. There's a bigger issue. There's a bigger concern that I'm going to let him touch on here for a minute.
Here's the info from NBC News.
Decades-old artifacts related to slavery and civil rights are rotating out of exhibits at the museum as a potential White House review looms large. In late March, President Trump signed an executive order demanding, in part, the museum take down any exhibits that, quote, divide Americans based on race. But now the White House says that it's washing its hands of any involvement in changes at the museum. NBC News went inside the museum and found at least 32 artifacts currently removed, including Harriet Tubman's Book of Hymns. Gospels believed to have been sung as she led enslaved people to freedom through the Underground Railroad.
Now, before we get even further into this, what I want for people to start thinking is with the ownership, and we are relinquishing these images, these photos, these artifacts to other institutions. So although it's not back in the hands of the family, in fact, it's just back in other institutions where they obviously don't have the final say as to what happens, what's presented, what's preserved with it, and who could get rid of these things as well. This is controlling history. And like Dr. Rashad would say, the whitewashing of the history that's already not well represented. Now, this is big if you're talking about or paralleling the rejection and erasure of the DEI policies, the what had started in Florida, the critical race theory, and not teaching history the way that it's supposed to be, or any terms of accuracy as well. This is very dangerous stuff.
Continue. And the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, the memoir of one of the most important leaders in the abolitionist movement. Both items gifted to the Smithsonian. The institution pushing back on critics, saying on their website, quote, claims that objects have been removed for reasons other than adherence to standard loan agreements or museum practices are false.
Did you know that you can call your soulmate into your life right now?
Let me
Here's
get
how.
rid of that. I know.
This is the soulmate.
I don't got the license, but here we go.
So damn sad. Put it up full mass. They are not removing artifacts. They are removing historical context and information.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that picture up. the same individuals who have engaged in this crusade to remove historical artifacts of strong Black leaders who were able to properly contextualize the moment of their era and lead individuals to a more progressive era. They're being removed, but these same individuals removing them would argue that a city government does not have the right to remove a racist ass Confederate monument. They don't believe that divides the nation.
Wow, that is big. Maybe I wish to show that in my live as well, what he's saying. They have the right to remove and keep these images locked up, but claiming that they don't have the right to remove any of the Confederate garbage that you see out there as well, which means, in layman's terms, that it's protected.
They would tell you that's history and the government should fund it. But when it comes to Black leaders who stood for morality and justice, and let's be honest, the morality of Black folk have made this country what it is, the superpower that it became, and the potential that still rests inside of it. Without the morality of Black folk, what would America be? You probably don't even want to think about that. Without the movement of King and others, what would this country be? According to News One, Miss President Trump's flurry of executive orders targeting civil rights and Black history, concerns are growing over exhibits being rotated out of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture.
You know, I'm just going to bump this up a little bit. Obviously, you could go back. Dr. Rashad, thank you for letting us use your thing here. Very informative, very on the pulse. I urge you to go back and check this stuff out.
According to by one of the most important leaders in the abolition movement, both items were gifted to the Smithsonian to have sung as she led enslaved people to freedom through the Underground Railroad, as well as a cloth made by enslaved people and a photo of the hip-hop group Public Enemy. Also removed was the, quote, narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, the memoir by one of the most important leaders in the abolition movement. Both items were...
And as we push through here, it's not just this museum. Also naval bases, some military bases are erasing the names and taking out information of Black leaders. Now, there was a thing just a few months ago, or maybe 2 or 3 months ago, where some of that was denied or even rejected to put some of those names back, to restore some of those names that were sneakily taken out. Why would they do that?
Gifted to the Smithsonian. Also aren't entirely convinced that the return was not politically motivated. Let's go to it. Liz Breselton, the owner of a diary connected to the Oscar-winning film 12 Years a Slave, is not convinced either. She gave one of her great-great-grandfather's diaries to the museum in September 2015 on a 10-year loan. The museum sent her a letter in March before the end of the term saying, quote, "We have decided to move ahead with the return a bit early to coincide with our internal gallery rotation schedule." The letter, was sent to 2 weeks before Trump signed the executive order targeting exhibits at the Smithsonian, which once again raised a red flag. The removal
flags and definitely connecting some dots there. These are not just coincidences, right? It certainly feels like an agenda is afoot.
That's a federal place. It's bound by federal rules. It is federally funded. If they take all of these things away, why couldn't they start coming after those? You see, this is systematic. These individuals don't simply go to the policy limit. They then create a new policy after they've maxed out that limit. And this is the game. All right, Reese, this is so sad. Thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, the Smithsonian is one of my favorite. It's actually my favorite place in DC because it is gorgeous, it is powerful, it is comprehensive, and it just has such a huge impact that it's no surprise that they are doing what they're doing. I don't buy at all that there isn't some sort of political pressure here, even if they aren't directly dictating which specific artifacts need to be moved.
Yes.
We've seen a pattern throughout this administration where people comply with things in advance, or they comply, or they try to make some provisions in the hopes that they curry favor with this administration. For instance, with Muriel Bowser ripping up the Black Lives Matter mural on Black Lives Matter Place. I don't even know what it's called anymore. So the fact that they put political pressure on them, it does not allow them to say that they have not had an impact or they haven't had a hand in this. And we've seen that.
All right. Don't want to show the whole thing. It's there for you to check it out. But just a couple notes that I wanted to make from there as well. Number one, fighting for the material. People obviously have a lot more artifacts, things from people's lineage that they're keeping in private and won't expose to the public and won't put it in the hands of the rightful owners. On top of that, it's almost like you're getting this tidal wave of an agenda to distinguish or extinguish, I should say, any hope of real history being included or being learned or even being protected as well. Do me a favor, drop in the comments. I'd like to know what you think. I hope this gets enough views, maybe turn some people on to what's going on out there, and maybe cause people to do things as well. And all you got to do is discover what's out there, man. See what they're doing while we're distracted with little foolish things like the Diddy trial and some pardons, when there's way better candidates to be pardoned as well, that people are satisfied with this sort of stuff, and even the people that he's choosing. But in the meantime, erasing vital parts of our history to reshape and have revisionist history as well. I think it's very damaging. I think it's very dangerous. Tell me what you think. This is Last Call Reacts. Hit me up with a like, share, subscribe. Go through a little bit of my library, my small catalog that I'm slowly building up, and grateful for my subscribers. Hit that subscription for me. Help my channel grow so I can spread this information. Have some integrity and dignity when I deliver these things for you as well. And you can meet me on my live. Love to see you there. Thank you. I will see you.